exactly the details in that area. It seems like we're a bit far away and we're losing the light. But all of that is to say, we've got a real turbulent atmosphere right here, a supercell thunderstorm that continues to rotate, and tornado warnings that have been issued because of it. So again, as we get a little bit of a wider view, you can see that kind of lowering to the storm even into here. That might be the lowest.
That's the most ominous part right there. But with the heavy rain kind of like right behind it, it's kind of, without the contrast, it's hard to really tell for sure from this kind of distance.
Absolutely. But again, it shows you the scale of this stuff that we're looking at. The tornado is such a small part of these giant storms.
Yeah, we got to remind everybody, when you're looking at the radar and we're showing that velocity signature, that is not the tornado. That's the mesoscale rotation at the storm level at some height into the atmosphere, depending on how far away you are from the radar, and then the tornado can form within that. But in here, there's, if we can exactly match up where the velocity signature is relative to this shot, I'm sure you would see a much broader area of rotation.
Yeah, I think the rotation is tightening up on the radar just a bit. There you go,
yeah,
just outside of Alexis. And so we're getting a pretty good look at this, both from the storm itself, thanks to Charles Peak, and then that's our rotation right in there. Weather producer Matt Reagan in the background putting on the circle for you to show you that rotation. So kind of a much tighter rotation couplet than what we had just a little bit ago, and that's right underneath that lowered wall cloud and tied to that kind of rain-free base that you're seeing in here, that you don't have quite as much rain as you did in the rest of the storm, right? So that is a very dangerous part of the storm. Some inflow air there wrapping around. There's a little bit of a hook, and there is definitely some rotation on the north side of this warning of Warren County outside of Alexis. So you know the National Weather Service is monitoring this area very carefully.
And Mark, we must be looking, and Charles shot there on the left, we must be looking from the south toward the north in general?
Yeah, I think so, because the sun is on the left side and it's getting towards the end of the day. So we're seeing that west side towards the left. So we're looking south to north here.
And see how the precipitation would be behind where the rotation is.
Absolutely, absolutely. A heavy rain in Alexis right now, but that rotation is actually on the south side of the Alexis area. Again, it's a tighter couplet than it was, and that combined with the shot that Charles was providing us, just one more indicator of why there is that tornado warning. We'll see if there is a new one issued off to the north as it approaches I-74 coming up.
Better days will take some work.
Your Sunday nights.
Oh, boy.
With all new episodes of Highway Through Hell at 8 and Heavy Rescue at 9. Sunday nights on the Weather Channel.
A wind advisory is in effect. Currently in our area, 61 degrees under cloudy skies. Tonight, strong to severe thunderstorms likely, low 46. Sunday, overcast skies and windy, high 50. Winds could occasionally gust over 40 miles per hour. Sunday night, cloudy, low 39. Higher wind gusts possible. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Welcome back, everybody. We are following severe weather that has enveloped over a large portion of the country. A strong area of low pressure in the Midwest is creating severe weather threat there, and then a trailing cold front is also kicking up severe storms. So just to give you your bearings, here's that spin. Look at the snow on the back edge of that strong area of low pressure. Associated with that is this area of spin with several tornado warnings associated with that. We've got a warm front that goes all the way into the mid-Atlantic, heavy rain, flood warnings, severe thunderstorms there, and then cold front dipping its way into the south. And look at the coverage of severe weather on the cold front now. Just about everybody is getting some sort of warning, embedded tornado circulations with it as well. Let's start to the north. This is where we've been following tornado potential into northeast Iowa for the past several hours. In the history here, there were reports of tornadoes. We'll see if this kind of recycles and gives you another one. Newest warning is for Clayton County, goes until 7:45, just over the border into Prairie du Chien. You got to watch this one carefully. Look at just the straight line winds. Whew, if we were to query some of those, maybe see what the radar is actually suggesting those winds look like. Easily 60-mile-per-hour gusts on that flank. Now, if you miss it by 1 pixel, you'll get nothing. Because there's that drop off, but on that leading edge, there were some reports that we saw of 60 miles per hour. Very strong wind potential on this leading flank of the storm. And so within there, you can sometimes get kind of gustnados, storms that form right on that wind shift, on that leading edge that you're seeing right here. But there's also this kink in the line, kind of like this. And when that happens, it means there's some inflow air coming in this way and here as well. Both of those, combined with the strong wind surging forward, suggest that there could be some rotation here, and there could be some rotation here that could spin up tornadoes in the rain. You'd never see them coming. So be weather aware tonight. We go farther south. This part of the storm has a little bit of an appendage. National Weather Service was watching that for Buchanan and Delaware to see if we got any rotation there. And we can continue down the line. Another new warning just popped up. This storm rapidly intensifying over Jones and Lynn. And again, this is all eastern Iowa. Let's take a look at the rotation on this one. And a little bit muddied, but enough where the reds and the greens are real close together. The green not as apparent in this scan, but still the bright reds and the lighter reds, or the bright reds and the gray, suggesting that there could be some spin there also. Notice how much more coverage we're suddenly getting as that line pinwheels its way through Davenport. It's tied to the storms that are tornado warned south of Davenport, and a huge development of storms south of there. This is the next round. This is what everyone was kind of worried about and waiting for the Midwest in order to see the storm development across this area. Zooming in on the tornado warning, or warnings, if you will, for this supercell thunderstorm, the different offices are meeting up here, so that's why you're getting such kind of funky shapes to the tornado warning polygons. But they're trying their best to kind of cover everyone as this storm moves through. Very strong straight line winds here with a little bit of rotation on that north edge. And so if you're in Oxford, you don't have a warning, but some of those winds are headed in your direction, both the straight line variety and the rotating wind. So get ready for that in the Oxford area. Then, no warning on this storm yet. I believe there will be one needed sooner rather than later, and we can continue to move south. The southern side of this is just as prolific. Look at what's happening around the Paducah area. Brand new warning has shown up, tornado warning due west of Paducah. We have a warning that's been there to the north for Crittenden, Hardin, and Livingston, and a brand new warning that I believe just clips to Paducah itself over Ballard and McCracken. Second time I've called out those counties for tornado warnings. This is a new tornado warning, everyone. The storm that had given you a tornado warning is the one that's now up towards Rosiclare. This is a new warning that's coming towards the radar site. There is rotation within this storm, within the very heavy rain. Good luck seeing it with the naked eye. Very difficult setup because of that. It is far too moist of an environment to be able to get a clear look at these storms. Out ahead of that line, we have supercell thunderstorms. Tornado possible here in northern Tennessee. Here's the Clarksville area, I-24. Here's Nashville. Look at that storm. Clear appendage here. This is a supercell thunderstorm. We've got the fanning motion, hail core right here, big time hail, and a little bit of rotation on that southern flank. Can't rule out a tornado. So these are severe thunderstorm warnings that have the little head nod to tornado possible. So keep that in mind. We talked about Paducah. We've got a live view of Paducah for you to bring you as well. An ominous sky in the Paducah area. just look at that, how low that cloud deck gets on the left side of your screen. Hopefully we don't get a tornado out of that. It's getting dark. There's a lot of rain. It'll be very difficult to see. Tornado warning in place west of town.
For every staircase supporting a grand entrance, door frames marking milestones, floors kissed by bare feet, and walls making room for new memories. Protect the pure joy of home with Terminix. We're committed to keeping termites out of your home with our all-new On Guard termite protection system. Always backed by the Terminix promise to keep your home strong enough for all the love it holds.
Hello. I saw you move in and I wanted to welcome you to the neighbourhood with some homemade biscuits.
Oh, that's so nice.
And a little tip, Geico could help you save on homeowners insurance.
Oh.
Severe weather coverage continues here at the Weather Channel, and the severe weather coverage over the land of the United States continues to ramp up. This is a busy evening, everyone, in a couple of different zones. We've got an area of low pressure with a lot of spin and a warm front across the Midwest. We've got a cold front through the Tennessee Valley into the southeast that's now fairly quickly ramping up its severe weather coverage as well. I'm Storm Specialist Mark Elliott. I'm joined by Dr. Rick Knabb. You'll hear from him in just a little bit as well. You know what? No matter where you look, there are warnings at this point, both to the north and the south. So let's start in, and we'll kind of cover one section at a time. Here's the Midwest. We've got this line that's unzipping. I say that because this area was capped with some warm air aloft and a little bit of cool air at the surface with some earlier rains that have since moved on. And yet, we've got enough forcing from our upper level feature coming through that we now have a whole series of tornado warnings down the line, with more storms still developing off to the south. Nothing imminent in that there are no confirmed tornadoes on any of these at the moment, but the ingredients are there. Very gusty winds on this storm for Clayton County. Notice a severe thunderstorm warning has been issued over the border into Illinois for those very gusty winds. Let's flip on the velocity mode before moving off to the next one, because that is not a tornado signature, but is indicating extremely strong winds. That deep blue color suggests 60 to as much as 80-mile-per-hour wind potential. It's aloft, but not that far aloft, so with the rain, that could definitely be pushed down to the surface, so get ready. That's why this severe thunderstorm warning has been issued. Now let's jump south just a bit. The next tornado warning down the line continues to move near Monticello. Dubuque is right here, again, to give you your bearings. This one, again, has a little bit of an inflow notch right in here. You see that little kink in the line, that notch over Jones and Lynn County? It's really raining in Fairview. That's for sure, but there is some rotation embedded within that just northeast of town and continuing to make its way on the north side of that boundary. A difficult view, but again, near Fairview, that's our best rotation right now, and moving on off towards the north, and there are some storm spotters watching that storm as well. Continuing off to the south, along that same broken line of storms, the Davenport area with some light rain, but now we're onto the Illinois side of things. These are the storms that will eventually bend their way all the way to Chicago. Chicago, you're clearing out. It's been amazing, the change. In fact, let me bring up the latest, sorry to dive out of the camera there. Let's bring up the latest observations for Chicago itself. Still in the fog and the mist and only 50 degrees. But if that were to change, if that were to lift off just a little bit, these storms are going to be coming your way, say by 9, 10, 11 o'clock, depending on what part of the metro you are in. The tornado warning that was in place there's now two, right? This one was a tornado warning, now a severe thunderstorm warning. This storm, however, outside of Alexis, we were following this one, it looks even more impressive on the radar now. Mercer and Warren. Look at that appendage, that kidney bean shape, that southern flank with an inflow notch like this, and then the rain-cooled air. And so you've got this rotation right there tied with that small-scale rotation drop, whereas this indicates a wind shift and different wind directions, but more of the straight line wind variety. So you can see both of those signatures, lots of straight line wind potential here and the tornado potential down to the south. But the models have been consistent in saying that these are really going to continue to ramp up, that these individual cells will still be going, will all have that kidney bean shape, even though it's a line of storms, they're kind of on their own, right? They're not clustering, they're not pooling their cool air together in a big straight line wind event. No, they're individual supercells in that line that'll be then crossing through places like Milwaukee and Chicago, and eventually leading to a huge rain event across the rest of the Midwest. We'll go to the south storms in just a bit, but I want to bring in Dr. Knabb as well because of what occurred already, and to look at the Paducah area.
Yeah, that's one area that is getting the line that's along the cold front. This is kind of the same general area of our system that have impacted Jonesboro. Look how dark that sky is in the background, not just because sun's going down, but the skies are darkening because of the storms in the area. It's good that there aren't many cars out on the roads. I would like to see 0 cars out on the roads this time of night, but you need to be inside in a sturdy shelter for the rest of the night, because there could be multiple warnings throughout the next few hours. And we've been tracking many states dealing with all of this. And I wanted to show you what happened in Jonesboro about 2.5 hours ago. And this was the tornado that we've been showing you has done a tremendous amount of damage in Arkansas. This was at 4:50 p.m. Central Time. There's the velocity signature. And this was when we saw it live on that traffic cam going through the south and eastern parts of Jonesboro, doing a lot of damage. And it was not surprising when we saw our correlation coefficient light up with all the debris. Right?
When I started this commute, into you.
Welcome back to what seems to be the never-ending telethon of severe weather coverage today. Unfortunately, now that we're getting into the prime time of the severe mode here, we're going to have more warnings, not less, over the next couple of hours. Keep your guard up, people, and know what to do when your county is called out if there's a warning, because unfortunately I think many of you are going to see that, whether it's severe thunderstorm warnings around the Memphis area and down into northern Mississippi with extremely strong wind potential, maybe with embedded tornadoes, or if you're farther north up that area, up that line of the Mississippi, I should say, lots of tornado coverage in and around the Paducah region right now, tornado warnings flanking Paducah. So let's start there. Let's zoom into Paducah itself, where you are now right up against a tornado warning that's going right over the National Weather Service office and the National Weather Service radar site. Ballard and McCracken, you have a tornado warning until 7:45. So close to the radar that it's actually going to be difficult to use the radar itself to give you a view of this storm because it can't look straight up, right? It needs to send that beam out to see the storm, and it's not getting far enough because the storm is going right overhead at this point. A separate storm in that same line for Massac County, 7:45 expiration on that tornado warning. That's just north of Paducah along 24. And then a third in that same line with a couple of different spots that we could suggest have some rotation. A little kink right in here, another one back here. Both of those for Crittenden, Hardin, and Livingston could have rotation and very strong winds tied to that leading flank. Right in here, right in here, we've got very strong winds headed towards Morganfield. So everybody in that area needs to be prepared for severe weather in the form of really strong winds. Will they be straight line winds? Will they be rotating winds? Spoiler alert, it almost doesn't matter. If the winds are strong enough, there will be damage. If there's trees near you, they could fall onto that top layer of your building. So go to the lowest level you got. That'll protect you a lot tonight if you're called out in a warning. Out ahead of that main line, an interesting setup, interesting meteorologically bad news for the people. We've got a supercell thunderstorm that's crossing out of Tennessee and into Kentucky. This is Nashville down to the south here. Here's 65, here's 24. Supercell thunderstorm for Montgomery and Stuart. And then crossing over onto the Kentucky side now, we've got a severe thunderstorm warning for Christian and Todd. on that southern flank of the storm, at times there's been some rotation. We certainly have that wind aloft and that eagle wing pattern. Again, we're pretty far from the radar site, and even then we're seeing some of that rotation aloft, suggesting that there could be a tornado. And just with the classic mode of the radar, it certainly looks like a supercell thunderstorm moving through. Now, there's a watch in this area that goes all the way until 2 in the morning, 2 a.m. Talk about an overnight threat. Now, with all the storm coverage that we have, I think we will be kind of chopping that back as we go. So not all of you will be under the risk until 2 a.m., but many of you will be, especially into, say, western sides of central Tennessee. Not that every storm and pattern is the same, but the tornado that came through central Tennessee was, what, midnight to 1 a.m.? That's the kind of timing that we're looking at for this line of storms with embedded tornadoes to approach. I only call that out because I know that there's a kind of a PTSD after big weather events, and you can be triggered by even a rumble of thunder off in the distance. This is one that I do need you to have some way to get your warning, have somebody that's tasked with staying up and making sure things stay safe, or a tested National Weather Service weather alert radio that you know will wake you up if there are warnings issued, so you can move on. This is now the Midwest. We're into Illinois. This is Henry County. Tornado warning continues until 8:15 here. And we do have live looks at some of these storms. Thanks to storm trackers that are in the area. We're seeing a little bit less because the sun is coming down. But still, look at that kind of sheared edge. It almost looks like that is the big shelf cloud trying to form, that darker cloud mass. And then you can look underneath that and see some of the rest of the storm. Because of that big curled nature, I don't think that is a wall cloud. I think that's a shelf, but a big lowered base of a supercell thunderstorm nonetheless. And then the sun is hitting that western side, and that's why you have the bright white in the background. Pretty cool storm structure there to be able to see, and certainly an indicator of very gusty winds. That said, there is rotation in this area. And so outside of the Cambridge region, Dr. Knabb, there is a strong rotation signature and something that we need to continue to watch, as there are several storm trackers getting views of that storm as we speak.
Gosh, so many impressive pictures and impressive velocity signatures on the radar. And we saw one of those in Rhodes, Iowa not long ago. Look at that tornado. This is northeast of Des Moines, southwest of Marshalltown. You can see how amazing the atmosphere is, how clear it can be in the background. But on the tail end of this storm, we've got this small tornado going on. You can see that the coming and going of the condensation funnel, but it doesn't mean there isn't strong wind going on at the surface. It looks like this was taken from behind some kind of window, but this would be a good time to get maybe a little farther away from the window and take shelter. So this is way up north near the low. Now, farther south and east in Arkansas, this was little less than 3 hours ago. Jonesboro was hit by a tornado. This is the mall at Turtle Creek on the southeast side of town, and it's just southwest of the Jonesboro Municipal Airport that also suffered significant damage. The mall was closed because of the COVID-19 situation, but there were still some other restaurants and stores in the immediate area that were open. That looks to be one of the hangar buildings at the airport. The Jonesboro Police Department setting up a command post at the mall. Numerous buildings damaged and reports of injuries. Mark and I are back. Stay with us.
At these fine retailers. Tomorrow morning on the Weather Channel, we'll be here bright and early on AMHQ Weekend. Then at 9, get your weekend recharge. Then at 1, Secrets of the Earth.
A wind advisory is in effect. Currently in our area, 61 degrees under cloudy skies. Tonight, strong to severe thunderstorms likely, low 46. Sunday, overcast skies and windy. High 50. Winds could occasionally gust over 40 miles per hour. Sunday night, cloudy, low 39. Higher wind gusts possible. Here's our 7-day outlook.
New video coming in from Jonesboro, Arkansas. This is from the tornado a little less than 3 hours ago. Wow, look at the amount of debris being kicked up. This is later in its life cycle than when we saw it on that live cam. Wow, look at the flags, how quickly they're moving. You can hear the roaring of the wind. Very large tornado, tremendous amounts of debris being kicked up, and some of that debris, based on what we saw on the radar, probably remained suspended for a long period of time. Look at the size of some of that debris. Looks like some of that maybe aluminum shards from some sort of warehouse kind of building, hard to say, but look how high it is being hurled up into the air, and it's not so much just the speed of the wind that can be damaging or injure or kill people. It's what's flying around in the wind that can cause a tremendous impact to people and to structures. Looking at this again, the weight of some of those objects, what a tornado is able to kick up into the air and hold at a pretty high altitude for such a long time is amazing. This went from southwest to northeast, mostly on the southeast side of Jonesboro, hit the mall at Turtle Creek, hit the Jonesboro Municipal Airport, appears to have missed the campus of Arkansas State University, but a number of buildings damaged, number of injuries reported. There is the airport. Tremendous damage to what looks to be a hangar building. The other picture, of course, a shopping plaza of some kind. It hit a very populated area of Jonesboro with a busy commercial area, but just south of the mall that you see here where there was a lot of damage, there are a lot of homes in that area too. The good news is that the mall itself was closed. You can imagine what the impact could have been if people were out at the mall on a busy Saturday afternoon that would be under normal circumstances. But you see how much damage to the outside of that Dillard's store experienced, and so much debris in the parking lot. Look at that car, Mark, how much damage it sustained. A very significant impact there. And a word to the wise for the rest of the night. This big storm system means business in a lot of states. Find safe shelter and go to your interior room when warnings are issued.
Yeah, and you know, the southern flank of this storm, goodness gracious, it is highly electrified and productive in its lightning right now. Good luck driving. It's amazing how many people are on the roads. I mean, just look at the visibility here or lack thereof. This is not too far from Memphis.
How many reasons do we need to stay off the roads tonight? I mean, we need to be sheltering in place for the most part anyway, but the rain, the ponding, the lack of visibility, the potential for localized flash flooding, the winds, the tornadoes. I mean, there's so many reasons to be off the roads tonight.
You just saw that car, I guess, pull over and put on the hazards. You can't tell what lane they're in or not. Yeah. That's what makes it so difficult if you're traveling and then there's hazards on. Look, there's one car traveling with hazards, one stopped with hazards. If you think you're following the hazards in front of you, you could run right into the back of a stopped car.
And so many fatalities can happen on water-covered roads at night or slick roads at night because your visibility is so low in the darkness and the driving rain. And of course, set those phones on high volume tonight. The later we get into the night, the more dangerous tornadoes can be if we're not getting warned properly.
So this is tied to a line of storms with all kinds of lightning from basically northern and western portions of Tennessee all the way down through Memphis into northern Mississippi. Look at the coverage of the lightning in that line of storms right now. Those are all severe thunderstorm warnings. We have very gusty winds along that entire path and all kinds of lightning. Okay, so this is very dangerous for multiple reasons. There's a little bit of a surge forward happening just south of Memphis. I would not be surprised if that trend continues, that kind of loops back in and we wind up with some pockets of rotation outside of these surge areas. These kind of kinks in the line are signs that there's some enhanced rotation even within otherwise a straight line wind environment. So very difficult to exactly pinpoint where those types of tornadoes will spin up. And so you're getting severe thunderstorm warnings because it's a guarantee that you're going to have straight line winds and potentially straight line wind damage. And then there's an outside chance that there could be tornadoes as well. Similarly, not just Memphis, not just the Memphis area, but we're also seeing some big storms around Paducah. In the Paducah area, we've had several kind of embedded tornado warnings. Look at this line of storms. Wow, we've got a huge surge forward, one of those surge forwards right in here. Because of that wind surging forward, and the high resolution radar shows you even better. We now have that rain-free air wrapping back in, and so you got a chance for a tornado in that zone in between, right in here, north of Morganfield. That's why we've got a tornado warning for Henderson, Posey, and Union counties. This will be heading towards extreme northern portions of I-69. Let's work our way back, and there's that rotation. There's that red-green. It's not the tightest we've seen, but it doesn't need to be necessarily on this type of signature. Working our way back to the south, we've got Livingston and Pope under a tornado warning until 8. That's closer to Paducah. And then just north and east from there, you also have Crittenden, Hardin, and Livingston. I think for the 4th time I've called out those same counties for tornado warnings, which makes the communication really difficult. Quickly, let's jump into the Midwest. We'll get back to here in just a second. We're coming up on a break, but I do want to let you know that there are several tornado warnings both in eastern Iowa and in northern Illinois that could be putting down tornadoes at just about any point. We'll give you an update on what's causing all this and where it goes in a very potential for a destructive environment through the next several hours.
Jonesboro, Arkansas, about 3 hours ago, experiencing the direct hit on the southeast side of town from a very significant tornado that we know has caused damage and injuries. Pretty obvious, with all of the debris being thrown up into the air, carried for miles. If you believe what we saw on the radar, pretty convincing. Look at the power flashes there. Tremendous amount of damage to the mall at Turtle Creek, to the Jonesboro Municipal Airport. Number of injuries reported. Arkansas State University campus, a little bit farther north and west of there, appears to have escaped the brunt of the tornado, but tremendous amount of damage, and maybe even some gas leaks in town reported by emergency management. The police department having to set up a command post at the mall, which was closed today, by the way, but a lot of people still out and about in town. And I'm still amazed at how much debris is being kicked up. Some of the sizes of those objects, it might be hard for you to tell on this vantage point, but look at some of the sizes of those objects. It looks to me like there's that long, stringy looking piece is probably a really big piece of aluminum or something, part of a building. And we saw the correlation coefficient on the radar, which is a way for us to be able to remotely detect non-meteorological debris being kicked up in the air. There was a ton of it kicked up by this tornado and carried for miles as it went from southwest to northeast. Again, this was about 3 hours ago in Jonesboro, Arkansas, which is not that far northwest of Memphis, Tennessee, in the northeastern part of the state of Arkansas. And of course, this tornado continued on for a while, Mark, as it maintained its signature and went up to near the Paragould area. What are you seeing in the video, Mark?
You know, at the very end of that tornado video that we're showing, if you look at the left side of the tornado, you can really see the violent motion. No, it has to be playing. It's right before the clip ends. Unfortunately, it's one of those
almost like
gifs that end too soon.
Yeah.
But you look right in here. Look at that left side, and you can see just everything violently moving. It's unbelievable, the strength of these things. And imagine being in a car or being caught where you're not really sure what you're supposed to do. Let's listen into that scenario unfolding right in front of us.
I see it.
There it is. Oh, there it is. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. What are we even doing?
There's a tornado on the ground, a big tornado.
Oh my
it's on the
gosh.
ground. We're watching the power.
There it is.
I think that is the take-home question. If you are not a National Weather Service certified spotter with access to radar information to know where these things are going, how they're changing, how they're experienced trackers can get into trouble. If you aren't one of those, the day with a storm motion of what, 50 to 60 plus?
Yeah, I was about to say these tornadoes were hauling. The forward motion was of all these storms today have been 40, 50 miles an hour. Trying to outrun a tornado in a car when you don't really know what direction the tornado's going. Really, you don't have your bearings really straight when you're kind of under duress like this. The best idea is to get off the road and get into a substantial structure as quickly as you can.
And so here's a couple of those. Yeah, if possible. It's tough. You don't want to, the real key is don't be there in the first place.
Right.
Know that this weather is possible and be in your stable structure before the storms.
Yeah, in fact, today is, every tornado watch is significant, but let's take the tornado watch as the cue to get inside into a safe, sturdy location until the whole episode tonight is over.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the warning and be out and about.
Because we're not done, unfortunately. As this storm system continues to ramp up, we have more potential for severe weather. We've got the area of low pressure into the Midwest, which is cranking out severe weather, including tornado warnings right now, right down the line. The newest is the southernmost, but look at the storms that are developing, kind of bending back almost all the way towards St. Louis again. And we have the separate zone of concern from the kind of the Illinois-Indiana border and near Louisville, and then going all the way back down along the cold front. Let's start here. Here's the Louisville area. This is Evansville, I should say. Henderson, Posey, and Union underneath a tornado warning. This could be coming right towards Evansville. It's kind of hugging the river, making its way towards that 69 corridor. Henderson, Vandenberg, and Warwick, all under tornado warnings until 8:45. Now, we're a little bit of a ways away from the radar site in this location, but if nothing else, look at the wind that this radar is picking up on aloft. These are very strong signatures for wind that are racing towards the radar site in the Louisville area. And then you've got the wind that's kind of bending back in towards the storm. This is what's prompting the tornado warning, as there could be, where those different wind movements meet up, the counterclockwise spin on the north side of this warning. And unfortunately, on the north side of the warning is Evansville. So keep that in mind, Evansville. This rotating component could be heading towards you. But otherwise, look at all the straight-lined wind energy that's going to be barreling on through. More than enough to do wind damage tonight. Keep that in mind. Let's jump now towards the Midwest. The Midwest has this, that line of storms that is kind of unzipping, breaking through the cap aloft, giving us some new warnings as we speak, the newest of which is this one that's generally headed towards Peoria. It's Fulton County with a tornado warning until 8:30. Here's Havana. This is the Lincoln area of Illinois. That's where the radar site is. So we're getting a good look at this storm. There's a radar beam sweeping on through. Let's get a little bit closer in and we'll give you the look at the rotation. And there's our couplet outside of Ipava, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, where the green colors are going towards the radar, red are going away. That is our counterclockwise spin right in here. That's the couplet for this tornado warning. It's why the National Weather Service office here put out that warning. And again, if you're in the eastern or northern side of this warning, you would not be able to see the tornado coming. The tornado potential's back towards the south and west through all of the rain. That's going to be the trend for the rest of the night. Not only is it now dark, but we also would not have the benefit of seeing the tornado in the area it's going to because of the heavy rain. Just to the north and right over I-80, due east of Davenport, we have a tornado warning that has been issued for Henry County. Here's the Princeton area. You're dry, looking back towards the west along I-80. But look at this. This is a little supercell thunderstorm. You got some eagle wing fanning out here. You've got lots of rain and storminess north of there, but I think the rotation that they're looking at is there. On the southern side. There's also a rotation signature on the north storm. So both of those are showing at least some signs of rotation. More the very gusty wind potential, I would argue, with both of these, but in any case, there's so much wind that you could get small-scale tornadoes start to spin up on those kind of leading edges of the very gusty winds, and that's why we have a tornado warning there. And then we go farther north. This is now basically as far east into Iowa as you can get, just outside of Dubuque. This is a supercell thunderstorm, and again in Dubuque, the potential for rotation pretty far south in this storm. Well, there's even a little bit of an extra appendage just outside of Cascade with this area. Tornado warning goes until 8:15, and look at the couplet right in there. And so that is the area of concern for this storm as it moves right up the heart of that warning, kind of going straight up the goalposts towards Sherrill. And so that's an area that could have a tornado at just about any point. It's tied to this whole extra spin that is going to continue to kind of unwrap, if you will, or break through that cap of warm air aloft. Now, there are some questions as to what happens later. Will the kind of the cool air around Chicago protect you a little bit? This is the newest update, so the purple zone for the most likely has come down, but there is a large area of possible severe weather as we go through the rest of the night. And the question is, does this area, does it pivot its way into Chicago, or does that rain-cooled, kind of lake-cooled air that's still in place in Chicago, it's now 50 degrees or so with mist, protect you from getting these supercells to come through? Now, granted, it's 9 o'clock on this forecast, so I think it's a little bit ahead of schedule. The line of storms is still back here and not moving quite that fast, so these times might be a little bit early. That said, it suggests the flavor could still be with you for these individual storms coming through Milwaukee and coming through Chicago somewhere in the late evening, the beginning of the overnight hours. You need to be weather aware tonight. Then that whole complex continues to move on off towards the east and honestly move into areas where it's been raining all day, and we already have flood concerns like in Indianapolis, like in the Pittsburgh area. And so this particularly dangerous situation watch continues through 9 o'clock. We'll see what, if anything, is issued farther downstream.
There is a house that stands strong, built on a foundation of fury, grit.
Your regularly scheduled program interrupted a bit tonight because of ongoing severe weather across the Midwest, as well as portions of the Ohio and Tennessee valleys. We have fairly widespread severe weather coverage at this point. I'm Storm Specialist Mark Elliott, bringing you through some of the tornado warnings. Also in studio is Dr. Rick Knabb. He's going to be following some of the flood potential that we've seen and will continue to see through the night. First, just the broad look here. We've got a strong area of low pressure, so strong that we've got some snow breaking out on the west side of that strong storm as it pulls in some cold air. On that leading flank of the low, however, look at this. We've got the new storms setting up, and then south of there, a cold front is also kicking up widespread coverage of both severe thunderstorms and tornado warnings as well. Many storms at this point getting some sort of warning from southern portions of Wisconsin into northern and central Illinois, and I'd make the argument that the next one in line could be as far south as the Springfield area. New lightning showing up in the tail end of these storms that continue to bubble up through the atmosphere. The atmosphere was capped. It was waiting for some help, some spin to come in from the west. It's here, and so now some new lightning strikes and probably new warnings. Also, look at the shape of these storms. These are all individual cells along the line. And so that shows you the spin that's available for these storms to tap into. There's very different winds with height, and I think we'll see more coverage of warnings, not less, even though we're getting further into the nighttime hours. Here's one of those warnings. Fulton County continues to be under a tornado warning for the next 15 minutes or so. Now, within here, lots of real heavy rain. The reds on this mode of the radar indicate very heavy rain, maybe with some embedded hail, small hail at that, but embedded hail nonetheless. We can use the radar to switch out of the traditional mode of the radar to see how much is falling and then go into how those raindrops are moving around. And there's what's known as a shear line, where basically all of the raindrops switch direction from towards the radar here to away from the radar here. And now, where those meet up, in this area, there could be some small-scale rotation indicating tornado potential. Now, this is not the tightest couplet we've ever seen, not even the tightest couplet of today. That is great news, and let's hope it stays that way, but there's enough of that wind shift that a tornado is possible there. So that's what the National Weather Service is monitoring. We're also looking at this cluster of supercell thunderstorms. It's crossing over I-80 right now. Those storms showing very clear signs of straight line winds, which is why one of the newest warnings is this severe thunderstorm warning, the tornado warning zone. There is some appendage action, some like some of that back edge of the storm suggesting some rotation still lingering for Henry County. I think this threat is transitioning to more of a straight line wind damage, at least temporarily. And we can even go farther north from there with some big storms, not only into northern Illinois, but now into the Iowa side of things. Tornado warning outside of Dubuque, and this one has one of those appendages as well. We could see a tornado on this one right in here. So that's something that we're continuing to monitor, as is in the National Weather Service. If that rotation gets any tighter, you'd need a new warning on that one. Let's go and bring in Dr. Rick Knabb. Dr. Knabb, it has been such a day already. The flooding along the warm front, the coverage of severe storms, I mean, you name it, it's on the map right now.
Yeah, you've got tornado warnings in 4 states. We've got flash flood warnings in 4 states, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Some parts of those states under flash flood warnings, and those warnings are largely in effect because of what has happened earlier today, in addition to what is ongoing or about to return. Look at the thunderstorms coming into southwestern Indiana, about to come into the Indianapolis, Muncie, Anderson area, because you're already under a flash flood warning in Lebanon and Carmel because of the earlier rains. Now look at the thunderstorms coming up from the southwest. Also in Anderson and Muncie, your flash flood warning continues until 11:15 p.m. Eastern time. You've had 1 inch, 1.5 inch hail during the day today. Some reports of water-covered roads, and more rain is on the way. Would not be surprised to see some flood warnings or advisories extended beyond that time. Even had some water rescues in Muncie near Ball State University earlier. Now look at the flash flood warnings north of Columbus, in Cambridge, Ohio, in the Pittsburgh area. Let's take a look at what's been going on there. We still have our flash flood warning in Pittsburgh in the south side of the metro area till 10:15 Eastern time. And unfortunately, a lot of homes have been reported to have their basements flooded. And even more, unfortunately, in Hermini, southeast of Pittsburgh, a man became trapped in a storm drain, and that turned out to be a fatality, sadly. Cleaning out the storm drain, and then once the drain was cleaned out, the water rushed in and took him with it. It is so dangerous in cars, outside, in flash flooding. So we've got to take this seriously, obviously. Wheeling, West Virginia, getting another round of very heavy thunderstorms along I-70 there, and we've had, during the day today, multiple homes reported to have flooded basements in Wheeling. So it is a very, very dangerous night. The potential for flash flooding will continue tonight into tomorrow morning along that slow-moving warm front. And if you look at the future radar, more periods of training showers and thunderstorms well into tomorrow morning. Mark and I are going to return. We still have our particularly dangerous situation tornado watch. You need to find a safe place to take shelter the rest of the night. Stay with us.
A wind advisory is in effect. Currently in our area, 61 degrees under cloudy skies. Tonight, scattered strong to severe thunderstorms, low 46. Sunday, cloudy and windy, high 50. Winds could occasionally gust over 40 miles per hour. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Tornado striking Jonesboro, Arkansas about 3.5 hours ago. This was the video at the time as it is damaging structures, numerous buildings damaged, and look at all of that debris being hurled up into the air and carried for miles. Some of those pieces, you can't really tell from this distance, but some of those pieces have got to be really, really large. You see the power flashes. There's an extensive power outage in the eastern and southeastern part of town. Look at that, the bottom middle of the screen there. You see that what looks to be a very large piece of aluminum from some building. You just see the violence of that tornado, especially on the left side there. And it went from southwest to northeast, went right over the mall at Turtle Creek, and it caused damage to the airport and to homes nearby. Now let's take a look at this video of a family experiencing the tornado and driving away from it.
Big tornado. Oh it's on the ground. We're watching the power.
There it is. Oh,
absolutely terrifying. And you got to remember that these tornadoes were moving northeastward at 40 to 50 miles per hour. It is very difficult, if not impossible, to reliably drive away from a tornado in such a way that you can guarantee your safety. This is an extremely dangerous situation, and we would recommend that anybody under a tornado watch tonight stay off the roads the rest of the night. Be in your safe shelter, and then if a tornado warning is issued, then you want to go to your lowest level, most interior room, the safest spot you can be in. Now, this was the vantage point as the tornado was ramping up as it entered the southeastern side of Jonesboro shortly before 5 p.m. Central Time. This is a stationary traffic camera on I-555 southeast of town, and you will see it really ramping up as it gets beyond that Cracker Barrel sign. You'll see the first power flash right in here, and then you'll see more and more debris being kicked up, as you can see over the right-hand side of that green roof of the hotel in the foreground. Look at all that debris being kicked up, and that is in the area of the mall at Turtle Creek. A lot of buildings damaged. Hopefully not too many homes damaged. The mall there heavily damaged, closed today. Could have been worse if people had been at the mall, but of course we hope that the house-to-house searches that officials are doing this evening don't reveal any more injuries, or certainly we don't want any fatalities. It's a rough night in Jonesboro, and there's going to be a long recovery yet to come. This is what happened nearly more than 3 hours ago as the velocity signature on the radar is coming in from the southwest. And there it is, right at 5 p.m. Central Time, as it is coming across that highway that we were looking at. So we were kind of looking that way, and the tornado forming and then strengthening going northeastward. And then that wasn't it by any stretch. It went through the eastern side of Jonesboro and then held together as it went near Paragould. And we look at the correlation coefficient on the radar. It's a way for us to identify non-meteorological targets, debris. There it is, right after coming into Jonesboro. You can see the debris being kicked up from all of the damaged buildings, and it just spread from there, and marked that, no doubt that a lot of that debris was thrown into the air and carried 4 miles. And that event today hopefully will spur people into action tonight, because the threat is far from over. Take shelter and heed those watches and warnings.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we've got some new warnings to tell you about. Into Indiana now, a tornado warning kind of hugging that Kentucky Indiana border. So if you're in Louisville, you should watch these storms carefully as they are, you know, basically barreling right on towards you. There's a long distance still to watch them, but you got to watch them nonetheless. Henderson, Vandenberg, and Warwick counties on either side of Evansville, and really on the east side of Evansville. We also have just east of there a tornado warning that has been issued for Davies, Spencer, and Warwick. We have very strong winds on both of these flanks and some embedded circulations within them that could give you tornado conditions, and that's why those tornado warnings have been issued. Very strong wind surge pushing forward where the winds come back in towards the storm, you can sometimes get a tornado. So whether it's straight line wind damage or tornadic wind damage, I think the potential is there. Let's go back to the traditional mode of the radar just for a little bit and just kind of zoom out and look what's happening south of here. These are all now supercell thunderstorms that are starting to form out ahead of the line. And so while these are not organized enough yet to be giving warnings, that potential is there. And so Louisville and I-65, you have to watch the storms in the big cluster as well as the individual storms out ahead of them. Busy evening continues here, as is our coverage at the Weather Channel.
Managing tech.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Welcome back to our continuing severe weather coverage here at the Weather Channel. I'm storm specialist Mark Elliott. I'm joined in studio by Dr. Rick Knabb. You'll be hearing from him in a bit as well. And what a day it has already been with the tornado that came through Jonesboro and continued all the way north and east from there, almost all the way into Tennessee, certainly into the Missouri boot heel. There were still tornado warnings. That same cluster of storms continues in a big old line, right? This is tied to our warm, moist air out ahead of the cold front, approaching cold front. Look at all the lightning coverage into Indiana right now. That's a real dangerous scenario. Also, as Dr. Knabb will talk about, that rain's getting very close to areas that are still flooded from the rain from earlier today. Big wind event came through Memphis. We got a big wind and potential tornado event coming through that Indiana-Kentucky border. And then you got this line of storms as well, barreling its way into northern Illinois. The models have been real keen on this. This is in an area that got a PDS watch, a particularly dangerous situation watch. Only about 5% of the watches get that kind of nomenclature for conditions that are even more favorable for tornadoes. And we have these, individual clusters that are now all trying to show at least some signs of rotation. There's one tornado warning in that group, just north of I-80. In Illinois, east of Davenport, of course, on the Iowa side, Whiteside County. Tornado warning continues until 9 o'clock. Very gusty, straight line winds with this storm. And I don't want you to underestimate the damage that can happen from just the straight line wind potential for a lot of these storms tonight, especially the further south you go, where the leaves have come out on the trees and they act like little parachutes and can help to bring down trees in the very saturated grounds. But there is at least some rotation right in here, a little kink in the line of this storm, and that's what the National Weather Service has been following, that wind shift, that little change right in here that is allowing for at least some embedded rotation in what is otherwise a straight line wind event coming through. And that's going to go right along I-88, so some difficult travel with that one for sure. Here's Peoria. And if you're in Peoria and looking back at these storms, you've got a growing line of storms approaching from the west that'll be barreling right on into you along I-74, Bloomington to Springfield next in line. And if we turn on the lightning, you can see how this has changed over the past hour or so, where storms earlier were really ramping up in here and headed towards Peoria. Those are collapsing a bit, but further to the south, these storms are still increasing in their lightning coverage. But that looks like nothing compared to what's happening to the east. Look at the lightning event that is ongoing in places outside of Evansville, where there are tornado warnings, where there's heavy rain, Bloomington to Indianapolis, and there are flood warnings that are still in place in Indianapolis from earlier today. But let's get you an update here on these storms that have mostly left Evansville and are continuing to move right along that Indiana-Kentucky border. The signature that you're seeing here, look at that. That is all ridiculously strong wind. If we switch this to the velocity mode, look at the switch here from, almost clear conditions with regards to the wind, the calm conditions, to very strong winds in these greens and blues. You're going to know when these storms come barreling through. And part of that is why we also have tornado warnings, because that rain-cooled air is surging forward like this. You're getting a bit of a gust front all the way out to here now. But that you know, that air out ahead of it is still racing as inflow towards the storm, and it's bending all the way back into this area. And so there could be an embedded tornado on that northern side of that Boeing signature. And you'd never see it. It's dark. You're surrounded by rain and a couple of good little curls of rain at that. And so you got to respect these warnings tonight. A lot of lightning, too. So much lightning coverage where that is a threat. Every lightning strike is severe. You'll never get a severe thunderstorm warning just because of lightning. And don't forget about what's happening down here. These are also supercell thunderstorms. They're starting to ramp up a bit. The lightning activity on this one in particular is increasing. It's jumping its way towards that Louisville area over time. And if it happens to, say, collide with the clusters that are already there, sometimes those cell mergers or cell collisions is exactly what you need to stretch out that vortex just a little bit more and really kick up a strong tornado. So those are some of the many things that we are following right now, north to south, with this large amount of coverage of severe weather. I want to bring in Dr. Knabb, because Dr. Knabb, I noticed how close that heavy rain was getting back to the Indianapolis area, which is still under warnings from earlier's rain.
Yeah, not only Indianapolis, but portions of Ohio that had been under flash flood warnings earlier are about to get more rain, and even the Pittsburgh area about to get more rain after flash flooding has already been occurring. Indiana, Ohio, northern West Virginia, and the Wheeling area and the Pittsburgh area, more thunderstorms on the way. Let's take a look at Indiana first. Here's Indianapolis on the west side. The thunderstorms are rocking and rolling again, coming up from the southwest. Lebanon, Carmel to the north under a flash flood warning until 11 p.m. Eastern time, largely because of what has happened already, but this is going to add to the problem. Same thing for the Anderson and Muncie area. Near Ball State University, we had cars getting stalled in the water, having to be rescued out of there, and you're still under a flash flood warning until 11:15 p.m. Eastern time. You got the White River going through Anderson. Low spots can really fill up quickly. And remember, in Laurel, Indiana, we lost 6 lives within the last week due to flash flooding. This is serious business in places like Indiana and Ohio. Here we are along I-75 north of Dayton in the Clinton, Greenville, and Sidney area. The warning is until 9:45 Eastern time. Numerous roads throughout Shelby County have high water, according to law enforcement, including a car stuck on West Russell Road and North Cruther Road. So these are cars getting stuck. You got to be off the roads tonight, everybody. This is too dangerous. Look at all the flash flood warnings there from north of Columbus into the Pittsburgh area. And also, you know, Mark was showing you the tornado warnings in the Evansville area, but you also in the same place have a flash flood warning in Evansville. That goes until 2:30 in the morning, because even after the rain goes by, the roads could still be covered in water in some places. You might be asking, what do I do if I've got a tornado warning and a flash flood warning? Well, both of those warnings have in common the recommendation that you stay off the roads. Dangerous to be on the roads for either tornado or flash flood. And if water was to come in your home for a tornado warning while you're under flash flood warning, you would take shelter on the lowest dry level in the interior portion of your room. I don't think we're going to have water into structures in Evansville, but you never know if you live in a low spot. Now back to the Pittsburgh area. Here's where we still have a flash flood warning until 3:15 in the morning because of more rain on the way. This is really becoming a serious situation, and it already has been very serious. We've had numerous reports of homes with their basements getting flooded in the Pittsburgh area, and sadly, we've had the report of one fatality southeast of Pittsburgh where a man was trapped in a storm drain. Clearing out the storm drain, once he cleared it out, the water rushed in and it took him with it. So sad. So many ways to get in trouble with flooding. We often underestimate how life-threatening flash flooding can be. In the Wheeling, West Virginia area, you've had flash flooding already today. More heavy thunderstorms occurring now. You're under a new flash flood warning till 12:30 in the morning. We've had numerous reports in the Wheeling area of water getting into basements. So many hazards tonight. The flash flooding, the lightning, the severe thunderstorm winds, the hail that we've had. And of course, Mark will be back to update you on the tornado warnings in that PDS watch. Stay with us.
So with Dish, you get the Hopper, TV's most
Sunday nights. With the cruise of Highway Through Hell.
Got a house that's sitting where it ain't supposed to be sitting.
And Heavy Rescue.
A lot of battle here. Oh boy.
Back-to-back episodes, non-stop action.
They don't call it heavy recovery for nothing.
Don't miss all new episodes of Highway Through Hell at 8 and Heavy Rescue at 9. Sunday nights on the Weather Channel.
I said it once and I'll say it again. I love my job.
A little less than 4 hours ago, very significant damaging tornado struck Jonesboro, Arkansas. This is a video showing how much debris is being hurled up into the air. You can hear the roar of the tornado. Listen to that. How scary is that? So many large pieces of debris being carried up into the air and carried for miles. Look at the power flashes. The southeast and eastern sides of Jonesboro have power outages as we speak. They are going house to house, searching for anyone who might be in need of medical attention. There have been numerous injuries reported, and the tornado went right over the mall at Turtle Creek there on the southeast side, right over the Jonesboro Municipal Airport, just missed the campus of Arkansas State University. And this was not by far the end of it. The tornado kept going northeast from there. Look how violent that is. Now let's listen to people who were in their car when this tornado struck and what they're going through as they try to drive away from it.
I see it. There it is. Oh, there it is. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. What are we even doing?
This is a tornado on the ground, on big tornado.
Oh
it's
my
on the
gosh.
ground. We're watching the power.
There it is.
Now, you got to remember that these tornadoes were moving at some 40 to 50 miles per hour. We certainly do not recommend that you necessarily try to drive away from and outrun a tornado. It's hard to tell what direction the tornado's moving relative to how you're driving. It can be very distracted driving, obviously. If at all possible, you want to get off the road, find a sturdy shelter, or better yet, not be on the roads at all when there's a tornado watch issued because of how quickly these things can spin up. Now, I want to show you the stationary traffic cam. This is on the south side of Jonesboro. This is US 63 and I-555, and we're looking west down the road. And the tornado is coming into the south and southeast side of town, moving quickly southwest to northeast. We saw this happen live almost 4 hours ago as the tornado is strengthening, moving behind that Cracker Barrel sign. You see the power flashes, and then farther it goes to the northeast, to the right in this view, the more and more debris that you see being kicked up. And it was shortly after this time, and this is moving through an area with a lot of buildings, both residential and commercial. Just a little bit farther to the right, farther to the northeast of here, is that mall and airport where we've shown you the pictures of how much damage there has been. So, Mark, I hope that the number of injuries, and certainly we hope fatalities are zero, but I also hope that people see this and are, really aware of how volatile the atmosphere is tonight. We've still got a PDS tornado watch up. We've still got multiple warnings out, and more are to come. We've got to be in a safe shelter tonight.
Yeah, one video that I saw online, just, they're sent from everybody at this point, that really grabbed my attention. If you didn't know what was happening, you'd be in trouble. And I think the person that was shooting it wound up in trouble. It looked like the tornado was just staying put, right? If anything, it was maybe growing. Well, it was growing because it was coming directly towards the person that was shooting it. And then all of a sudden there was debris everywhere without enough time for them to get into stable shelter. You can be mesmerized and really your bearings are all off because you're not used to seeing tornadoes in front of you all the time. It's that difficult to know which way they're going. And when they're moving directly towards you, they often just look like it's a tornado way far away that just happens to be getting bigger in its condensation funnel, that cloud associated with the tornado. In that case, it was actually moving towards the person filming. So let's hope that they were okay. Let's hope that everyone out there today was okay. A dangerous evening still ongoing. In fact, the newest tornado watch, as issued by the Storm Prediction Center, goes until 2 a.m. Now, the particularly dangerous situation watch was about to expire, so they kind of replaced it with this one. This is a regular tornado watch, if you will, as if there's a need for a scale of a bad tornado watch versus not, it's still a tornado watch. There could be nighttime tornadoes here across northern and central Illinois. The exception, I guess, in some ways is here around Chicago. We talked about that cold air that was there from earlier today and the cool air around the lake. It's still, what, 50 degrees with mist in Chicago. Tough to get tornadoes and severe storms to get all the way into that air mass. And so that area is not included in the watch. This one goes until 3 a.m. This is a new watch as well. Evansville to Louisville, Bowling Green, almost all the way to Lexington. Tornado watch until 3 a.m. Okay, this is a long way to go still. We're not done with that severe weather threat. And until 2 a.m., you have the rest of western into portions of central Tennessee, and this continues south into much of northern, at least northwestern, and extreme west central portions of Mississippi. So again, a lot of coverage here. This should raise at least some alarm, a line of storms that's approaching and could get into central Tennessee overnight. And in fact, within here, a brand new tornado warning has just been issued just outside of Jackson, Tennessee. This is along the line of storms, but there's these embedded circulations, these embedded kinks in the line that then become more conducive to seeing tornadoes and not just straight line wind damage. So you've got this kink that goes like this. Suddenly, this dog leg is what it's often referred to as. If you look at a dog that's standing, their legs kind of at their knee do that little bend. Well, that in the weather world indicates a lot of spin with inflow air coming into the storm, and then that push of rain-cooled air moving away. So there's that push of rain-cooled air. It bends that radar forward, and yet the inflow air has to wrap back in. And so when you see a signature like this with that big surge forward, you know that there could be a tornado, and that's why this tornado warning was issued. You could similarly see there's a bit of a surge happening south of there. So if you're in the Bolivar area, watch out for that, because there could be another circulation right here. In fact, I think there is. I think there is one starting right there. So two different areas on that line that could have at least some rotation. They would be well into the rain side of things. You would never see it coming if you're out there looking off to the west. Not only is it dark, but the circulations, if there are any, are embedded within the heavy rain. So a very difficult night in that regard. There are storms with warnings on the Indiana side now. We'll be watching those from the Louisville area. Updates on that when we return.
Legacies don't just nutrition that performs. To get the most out of your mornings, you need to know what weather is heading your way. America's Morning Headquarters has you covered.
We've already got some rain out there this morning.
So start every day with the best in weather. Join Jim Cantori, Stephanie Abrams, and Jen Carfagno weekday mornings starting at 5 for AMHQ on the Weather Channel.
Our coverage continues of what was a very busy late afternoon and continues to be a dangerous evening across the Midwest and portions of the Tennessee Valley. Thanks for sticking with us here at the Weather Channel. I'm Storm Specialist Mark Elliott. You'll hear from Dr. Rick Knabb in studio here in just a second. Check out what's happening in northern Illinois. A tornado watch has been issued until 2 a.m. and we have a newly issued tornado warning that is pointed generally towards Rockford. It's got a ways to go. Got to go through Dixon first and then eventually towards that I-39 corridor. But this storm looks a lot better organized than it did even a few moments ago. We're seeing a clear kind of fanning out shape as the top of the storm is interacting with the very strong winds coming south to north. And look at this rotation that is now shown up. We've got a pretty clear red-green couplet where the green colors in this case are going towards the radar this way, red's going away, and that is your counterclockwise spin. And that line you just saw come by, that's the radar beam giving us some of that new data coming in. There's another radar site off to the west. We could also get a look at that one. And so we've got kind of two different modes. It's definitely the Chicago side that's got a better view of this storm at the moment and a better view of that couplet. Both of them a little bit far away, but enough that that tornado warning was issued because of that potential. In fact, you can see that there's even a little bit less of a rain signature right in the center. Very heavy rain outside of it, a little bit less right in the middle. Sometimes as the storms start rotating, that gusty wind helps to push the heavier rain out away from the rotation. And so you're seeing a little bit of that as well. Clear lightning jump as well. brand new tornado warning also issued right over Peoria. Peoria is now under a tornado warning until 9:45. You got this kink in the line just like this, and that's one of those spots. You've heard me talk about those several times this evening, that the potential for rotation is just a little bit higher. Very strong straight line winds to the south. Rotating winds on the north side of that, and then look at that rotation couplet. That's strong enough that we should probably keep that circle on the map and see if there's any debris being lofted into the sky there. Nothing yet, but Peoria, you have to watch this one very, very carefully. A strong rotation signature just off to your south and west, which means it's coming directly into your area. It'll probably be there within about 20 to 30 minutes as that warning continues for the Peoria area until 9:45. Some of the timing for you looks like just after the top of the hour, Peoria. So about 15 minutes or so, that storm will be, and that rotation will be right over you. Comes through Limestone first within the next couple of minutes, then eventually Longshore Park. Dangerous storm because it's that rotation is quite clear, but it's embedded within the rain. So Dr. Knabb, there's, other than the warning, there's no way to see that storm coming at you.
Poses so many dangers with dealing with tornadoes, with dealing with flash flooding. We have a lot of warnings to tell you about in Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. Severe thunderstorm and flash flood warnings. Indianapolis area rocking and rolling again after a long day of heavy rain and some hail. Severe thunderstorm warning for Indianapolis and the northwest side till 10:30 Eastern time. And then on the southeast side, new warning was just issued. It goes till 10:45. 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, quarter-size hail are in the mix here, as is some very heavy rain. We still have flash flood warning up in Lebanon and Carmel till 11 p.m. Eastern time, and for Anderson and Muncie until 11:15 Eastern time. This heavy rain is going to add to the flash flood problem. Stay off the roads. Get into an interior part of your home to weather these storms, but stay off the roads. Evansville, lots of warnings that Mark has been telling you about, including a flash flood warning that continues until 2:30 in the morning. After the rain stops, the flooding could still be continuing. The Pittsburgh area, Wheeling, West Virginia, Cambridge, Ohio, all under flash flood warnings. Unfortunately, we've had a fatality southeast of Pittsburgh when a man was drawn into a storm drain after trying to clear it. Stay off the roads, stay inside, and throughout the night tonight, our team is going to remain here. We will break in as necessary to update you on any significant warnings that you need to know about. So we want you to stay with us here on the Weather Channel on this dangerous night.
There's nothing holding this thing together.
This time on Heavy Rescue 401.
Make sure they all come apart nice and easy.
A triple wreck makes trouble.
Oh, hey, oh, holy baby, mackerel.
I don't really want you lifting.
A new